Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 111, A New Mission and the Night Demon King? Roy was right. Fianna had initially intended to join Valseria's team, as Valseria was the runner-up in the previous Blade Dance. However, Valseria hadn't returned to the academy. And after witnessing Roy's strength, Fianna had decided to join their team instead. No way. Absolutely not. Claire immediately objected, seeing Fianna flirting with Roy. I agree with Claire. Rinslet, surprisingly, was on the same side as Claire. Fianna, seeing their hostility, remained calm and turned her attention to Roy. Roy-san, may I join your team? She asked, seemingly aware that he was the one who made the decisions. I understand your intentions. You can join for now, Roy replied, but to stay on the team, you'll need their approval. He gestured towards Claire and Rinslet. Fianna's abilities were quite useful. Although she couldn't use her contracted spirit right now, she had learned the ritual dance during her time as a Princess Shrine Maiden candidate. She could act as support for the team. And once she regained her contracted spirit, she could be their tank. Fianna's contracted spirit was a high-ranking light elemental, a night spirit passed down through the Ordizia royal family. It possessed incredible defense and high resistance to dark attacks, making it an ideal frontline protector. Claire and Rinslet were a mage and an ADC, respectively. They were vulnerable in close combat. Having a tank to absorb damage would allow them to unleash their full power. Claire pouted, hearing Roy's decision. Although she was the leader of the team, Roy's words carried more weight. She couldn't object. Fine, she grumbled reluctantly. For Roy's sake, I'll allow you to join. Rinslet was also unhappy but couldn't defy Roy's decision. Fianna, initially worried that her intentions had been exposed, was relieved to hear that she could join the team. Thank you. I'll do my best, she exclaimed with a bright smile. As a token of my sincerity, I have a mission to share with you. A mission? Yes. Before coming here, I went to the headmaster's office and accepted an S-rank mission, Fianna declared proudly. She had used her status as a princess to secure this mission. And Greyworth had only agreed after Fianna mentioned joining Roy's team. Greyworth had even said that if Fianna hadn't joined Roy's team, she would have assigned the mission to someone else. What? An S-rank mission? Claire and Rinslet were shocked. Like team battles, missions were also a way to climb the school rankings. There were various types of missions: performing spirit dances, suppressing rampaging spirits, investigating sealed spirits, and defeating rogue elementalists. Completing missions granted points that contributed to their team's ranking, similar to winning matches. And S-rank missions were the most difficult. If Team Scarlet completed this mission, their ranking would skyrocket. They might even reach the top spot. Claire and Rinslet were excited. They didn't even consider whether they could complete the mission. With Roy on their team, they believed they could overcome any challenge. Tell us, what's the mission? Claire urged impatiently. Do you know about the mining city, Gedanaloon? Fianna asked with a sly smile. Gedanaloon? I've heard of it. It's an abandoned mining city, right? Rinslet recalled. Gedanaloon was once a prosperous mining town, rich in spirit crystals. But during the Second Ruble War, the mines were depleted. The mines had been abandoned since then. Now, Gedanaloon was a ghost town filled with ruins. Recently, there have been frequent earthquakes in the mines. Our mission is to investigate the cause, Fianna explained. Earthquakes caused by earth spirits weren't uncommon. If a spirit was angered or rampaging, they would perform a ritual dance to appease it or send the Sylphid Knights to subdue it. The mission seemed straightforward enough, but Don't joke with me. How can investigating an earthquake be an S-rank mission? Claire was skeptical. There were too many suspicious aspects to this mission. A simple investigation shouldn't be dangerous enough to warrant an S-rank difficulty. Well, it's not that simple, Fianna admitted. There's a strategic class elemental, sealed by the former Ordesianites, that slumbers within those mines. A strategic class elemental? Claire and Rinslet gasped. Strategic class elementals were incredibly powerful. They couldn't be controlled by a single person. It required hundreds of elementalists performing a ritual dance to barely utilize their power. They were devastating weapons. However, all the countries on the continent had signed a treaty to seal these 7 strategic class elementals. It's just a spirit. Why are you so scared? Roy scoffed. That's right. A sealed strategic class elemental isn't that scary, Fianna agreed. So, the earthquakes are caused by this elemental? Roy asked. That's one possibility. That's why the Academy issued this mission, Fianna explained. If the seal is indeed weakening, we'll have to perform a ritual dance to reseal it. Having been trained as a shrine maiden, Fianna was capable of performing such rituals. All right, then Team Scarlet accepts this mission, Claire declared, slamming her hand on the table. Completing this mission would guarantee them a spot in the blade dance. Roy and Rinslet nodded in agreement. Their conversation drew the attention of the surrounding students. Seeing Fianna, the princess of the Empire, willingly join Team Scarlet, they erupted in chatter. Hey, look! That male elementalist is hitting on Princess Fianna. The Great Demon King is at it again. I'm a bit envious, to be honest. Are you crazy? But, look at his sharp eyes. I can't resist them. Don't you think it would be fun to be played by him? Just a little bit. Why, yeah. If he forced himself on me, my heart wouldn't be able to take it. No way. He's the Night Demon King. A Mao who wants to conquer every girl in the world. Roy overheard their whispers. The Night Demon King? Not a bad title, he mused. It seemed the number of girls sending him love letters had increased lately. His locker was often filled with letters and handmade snacks. But he was used to this kind of attention. After all, he was the most popular boy at Kuo Academy. The mission to Gadonalon was scheduled for 3 days later, so they didn't have to participate in any ranking matches for now. One morning, Roy was enjoying his tea and playing games with Kaneko when Rias approached him with a cheerful expression. Roy, I have good news. Oh? What is it? Roy asked, his attention still on his game with Kaneko. Velsaria is back. Oh, you saw her? How is she? Well, she's quite a handful, just as you said, Rias replied with a sigh. She had received news of Velsaria's return and went to meet her, hoping to recruit her future rook. However, upon arriving at the Sylphid Knights' headquarters, she had witnessed Velsaria brutally defeat all the other knights, including her own sister, Ellis. Rias had initially wanted to intervene, but remembering Roy's words, she held back. Velsaria had then mocked Ellis and chosen 4 knights who could still stand after her attacks to form her team. Throughout the whole ordeal, Velsaria had displayed an arrogant and ruthless demeanor. She was obsessed with power, and Rias could sense a dark aura surrounding her. Don't worry, Rias. She'll come around during the ranking matches, Roy reassured her. I suppose that's all we can do, Rias sighed. But then, she smiled. Thanks to her charm, many girls were willing to follow her. However, her evil pieces were limited. Although she still had all 8 pawn pieces, they weren't mutated pieces. And the students in this academy generally had high potential. It would take at least 2 pawn pieces to turn one of them into a devil. Rias naturally wanted to choose the most talented girls. That afternoon, Roy took Mitsuri and Mikomo out for a stroll. As they passed by a clothing store, the girls' eyes were drawn to the beautiful clothes displayed in the window. Roy chuckled and led them inside. Makomo, do you like this dress? He asked, pointing at a lovely princess dress with a gem-encrusted necklace. Yes. Makomo replied with a blush. Then let's buy it, Roy declared, unconcerned about the price. After all, the money was a gift from Greyworth. Mitsuri, you too. Choose whatever you like. Don't hold back. Okay. Mitsuri beamed and began browsing through the clothes. She was currently wearing the academy uniform. She had discarded her Demon Slayer uniform long ago. The girls soon chose their outfits and went to the fitting rooms. Makomo emerged first, looking adorable in the princess dress and the sparkling necklace. Makomo, you're so cute. Come here. Roy scooped her up and lifted her high in the air. Makomo, usually expressionless, blushed. Mitsuri then came out, wearing a gorgeous evening gown that accentuated her curves. She looked even more radiant than usual. You look stunning. Roy gave her a thumbs up, still holding Makomo in his other arm. Mitsuri giggled, pleased with his approval. I'll take these two outfits. Please wrap up their school uniforms. They can keep the new clothes on, Roy told the shopkeeper. Just then. Boom! A loud explosion sounded from the distance. Smoke billowed into the sky. What happened over there? Roy wondered, looking towards the source of the commotion. It must be something with the Imperial Army, the shopkeeper replied. She recognized the direction as the location of the Imperial Army base. Let's go check it out. We have some free time, Roy said to Makomo and Mitsuri. They nodded in agreement. The three of them left the store. Wait! You haven't paid yet, the shopkeeper shouted, finally realizing what had happened. But Roy and the girls were already gone. Roy, hearing her shout, felt a pang of embarrassment. He had forgotten to pay. But it would be even more awkward to go back now. He would have to pay her another time. They soon arrived at the scene. It was the Imperial Army's arena. Roy stopped a girl who was running away and asked what had happened. It turned out that today was the day the Empire selected talented elementalists to join the army. The winner of this selection process would be granted a contract with a strategic class elemental. Strategic class elementals were incredibly powerful. Ordinary elementalists couldn't control them alone. That's why this selection process was held, to find someone with the talent to wield such a powerful spirit. Chapter 112, Fianna and Ellis joins the team. However, strategic class spirits weren't easy to control. When the girl who had won the selection tried to form a contract with the strategic class spirit, she lost control, and the spirit went berserk. A giant, steel golem rampaged through the arena, wreaking havoc. This was the strategic class spirit. Many other spirits had already been defeated by it. The army's hasty counterattacks were ineffective against the rampaging golem. Roy, shouldn't we stop that thing? Mitsuri asked, concerned. If they didn't intervene, the golem might harm the civilians who had come to watch the selection process. Don't worry, let the Sylphid Knights handle it, Roy replied, stopping Mitsuri and Makomo from rushing into the fray. He had already spotted the Sylphid Knights approaching. There was no need for him to get involved. It's Ellis. Roy was surprised to see that it was Ellis leading the Sylphid Knights. Beside her were Raka and Rashia. The Sylphid Knights were responsible for the safety of the academy and its surroundings. They would definitely send someone to deal with this commotion. But he hadn't expected only those three to come. They couldn't possibly stop a strategic class spirit with just the three of them. Then, Roy remembered what Rias had told him that morning. Velsaria had defeated all the Sylphid Knights and only took those who could still stand with her. That's why the Sylphid Knights were understaffed. Those soldiers are so reckless. This is bad. Raka, Rashia, let's go. If we can hold it off for a while, the instructors will arrive, Ellis said, frowning at the rampaging golem. Although the Sylphid Knights were renowned, this was beyond their capabilities. Only the instructors, whose strength rivaled the Empire's Spirit Knights, could handle this. The three girls charged towards the steel golem. However, the difference in power was too great. They couldn't even hold it back. Raka and Rashia were quickly defeated. The golem then turned its attention to Ellis, its massive fist slamming down on her. Boom! The ground shook violently. Although Ellis dodged the attack, the shockwave sent her flying. Just as she braced herself for a painful landing, someone caught her. "Are you all right?" a gentle voice asked. Ellis opened her eyes and saw Roy's handsome face. She blushed. Please put me down," she mumbled, embarrassed. "Okay." Roy chuckled and gently set her down. Holding Ellis in her armor hadn't been very comfortable. Thank you, Roy-san," Ellis stammered, her face still flushed. "It's no problem. We're classmates, after all," Roy replied with a smile. "But what are we going to do now?" Ellis asked, looking at the rampaging golem with worry. "If you don't mind, I can take care of it," Roy offered. "Really?" "Yes." "Then please, Roy-san," Ellis said gratefully. This was supposed to be the Sylphid Knight's responsibility, but now, she had no choice but to rely on Roy. She didn't doubt his ability to stop the golem. She still remembered the duel the other night, where Roy had effortlessly slain the Cyclopean giant with a single strike. Roy turned towards the rampaging strategic class spirit, a smirk playing on his lips. He summoned his Ice Rose sword. Ellis stared at the beautiful blade, her eyes filled with admiration. It was an elegant sword, with a hilt and handguard shaped like an ice blue rose. The blade itself was adorned with intricate rose carvings. What a beautiful sword, she thought. Roy, wielding the Ice Rose sword, didn't even bother using breathing styles against this weakling. He simply swung his sword. An arc of sword pressure shot out. Slice! In the blink of an eye, the strategic class spirit was cut down. He's so strong," Ellis gasped, staring at the fallen golem in disbelief. To think he could defeat such a powerful spirit so easily. She looked at Roy with admiration. "That takes care of that," Roy said, turning to Ellis. "Are those two all right?" he asked, pointing at the unconscious Raka and Rashia. "Yes, they're just unconscious," Ellis confirmed after checking on them. She was relieved. But then, her expression turned gloomy. "What's wrong, Ellis-san?" Roy asked, noticing her change in mood. "Oh, it's nothing." Ellis tried to brush it off. But Roy could easily see through her facade. She was worried about her teammates and the upcoming blade dance. She had been defeated by her adopted sister, Velsaria, that morning. Fortunately, she and Raka and Rashia hadn't been injured. But her other two teammates had been severely injured and wouldn't recover for at least 10 days. And now, with Raka and Rashia also injured, she was the only one left on her team. How could she participate in the blade dance like this? "You're worried about your teammates, aren't you?" Roy asked gently. Ellis looked at him in surprise. He had seen through her worries. She no longer tried to hide her concerns. "Raka and Rashia are injured. Now, I'm the only one left on the team. What am I supposed to do about the tournament?" she lamented with a sigh. "Since you're the only one left on your team, how about joining mine?" Roy offered without hesitation. Ellis was surprised, then hesitated. As a knight, she couldn't abandon her teammates. "Captain, accept his offer." Raka, who had regained consciousness, suddenly spoke up. "Raka! Captain, isn't participating in the blade dance your dream? We can't help you anymore. Please join Roy-sama's team." "Yes, with Roy-sama, you can definitely win the blade dance," Rashia added, also awake now. They both urged Ellis to accept Roy's offer. After much hesitation, Ellis finally agreed. "All right, I'll join your team." "Welcome to Team Scarlet," Roy said with a grin. Early the next morning, Roy met up with Ellis, Claire, and Rinslet. Today, they were going to undertake the S-rank mission to Gadonalun. "Ellis, why are you here?" Claire asked in surprise. Ellis had been tending to Raka and Rachia yesterday, so Roy hadn't had a chance to inform Claire and Rinslet about her joining their team. I've invited Ellis to join Team Scarlet. She'll be accompanying us on this mission, Roy explained with a smile. Eh? The three girls were surprised. But. Claire started to protest. We're still missing a member, and Ellis's teammates are injured, Roy interrupted. Fine, I agree, Claire said reluctantly. Ellis was the captain of the Sylphid Knights. Her strength was undeniable. She was more than qualified to join their team, but Claire was still a bit unhappy about it. Pleased to meet you all. Claire, I apologize for the Sylphid Knights' earlier behavior, Ellis said sincerely, bowing respectfully. It's okay, Claire stammered, flustered by Ellis's formal apology. Actually, we, the Sylphid Knights, also received a mission, Ellis announced, her expression turning serious. What mission? Claire asked curiously. Last night, someone stole confidential documents from the library, Ellis explained. These documents contained information about the strategic class elemental sealed in Gedonalun, Jormungandr. Whoever stole them is clearly after the strategic class elemental. So your mission is to retrieve the documents? Rinslet asked. Yes. Ellis nodded. Since we're both going to Gedonalun, and our missions don't conflict, why don't we complete them together? Roy suggested. Claire, Rinslet, and Ellis agreed. They knew that whoever was after the strategic class elemental would likely cross paths with them. Accepting the Sylphid Knights mission was a simple task. And it would earn them extra points for the school ranking. Alright, since everyone agrees, let's depart. Roy declared. They set off for Gedonalun. The mining city wasn't far from the academy. It would take about a day on horseback to reach it. The horses were already prepared outside the academy. Oh my lady is going to such a dangerous place. I'm so worried. Carol exclaimed, clasping her hands together and praying for Rinslet's safety. She wasn't an elemental spirit contractor and couldn't participate in the mission. Don't worry, Carol. I'm more worried about you, Rinslet replied, hugging her adorable maid and launching into a series of instructions. Will you be able to wake up on time without me? Make sure you eat properly every day. And don't make a mess with Bubbles when you're doing laundry. The others exchanged amused glances, watching Rinslet fuss over Carol. It seemed like their roles were reversed. Wah, my lady. I'll do my best even when you're not here. Carol cried, touched by Rinslet's concern. This is so weird, Claire commented, unable to hold back her amusement. What are you talking about? A maid's only purpose is to be cute, right? Rinslet retorted. Fine, you're right. Claire decided not to argue. Just then, Fianna let out a yelp. Ah! Stop it! Stop it, I said. She had tried to climb onto a horse but was thrown off. Roy caught her before she could hit the ground. Are you all right? He asked. I'm fine, Fianna replied, her cheeks flushing as she met Roy's gaze. Having grown up in the Divine Ritual Institute, Fianna was quite innocent. If you can't ride a horse, you can ride with me, Roy offered. Really? Yay! Fianna nodded excitedly. Claire glared at her. Honestly, a princess who can't ride a horse? Isn't that a basic skill for nobles? They didn't teach us how to ride horses at the Divine Ritual Institute, Fianna retorted. Horse riding is a compulsory subject here. You better get used to it. With your assets, it might be difficult to maintain balance, Claire taunted. Well, I'm not as flat as you. You probably don't experience any air resistance. I, on the other hand, am clearly disadvantaged, Fianna replied calmly, flipping her hair. Claire fumed. You? Just as they were about to start another argument, Roy sighed. That's enough, you two. Let's just go. Claire and Fianna immediately stopped arguing. They mounted their horses. Seeing Fianna clinging to Roy's back, Claire and Rinslet couldn't help but sneer and exchange sarcastic remarks. Amidst their bickering, they set off for Godonaloon. After a full day of riding, they finally arrived at the gates of the mining city. It was already late at night. They were all exhausted from the journey. "Let's rest and have something to eat," Roy suggested. He conjured a table laden with food. "Amazing! Where did you get all this?" Fianna and Ellis stared at the feast in surprise. "Damn it! Now I have no use for my preparations." Rinslet grumbled. Her spirit, Fenrir, was carrying a large amount of food, and she had been planning to cook for everyone. But Roy had already taken care of it. She regretted not preparing the food beforehand. Claire, however, was simply drooling at the sight of the delicious spread. "Come on, everyone, let's eat," Roy said. He then looked at the spirit seals on his arms. "Est, Ren, do you want to eat too?" He didn't need to ask. Est and Ren emerged from their seals, drawn by the delicious aroma. Even Scarlet joined them. After a satisfying meal, Roy and the girls entered Godonaloon. Chapter 113, The Strategic Class Spirit in the Mine and an Unexpected Surprise. "So this is the mining city of Godonaloon? It's like a ghost town," Rinslet commented, observing the dilapidated surroundings. "It's been abandoned for decades." "It's no surprise it looks like this," Claire replied, her eyes narrowed as she peered into the darkness. The ruined buildings were dotted with flickering will-o'-the-wisps, emitting an eerie pale light. These were low-ranking spirits, drawn to the abandoned city. Evil spirits often gathered in such desolate places. "Hey, can you get off him now?" Claire glared at Fianna, who was still clinging tightly to Roy. "No, I have to protect Roy. I can't leave his side," Fianna insisted. Roy sighed inwardly. She was clearly terrified, yet she still claimed to be protecting him. "You're the one who needs protection. And where's your contracted spirit? The elementalist who stole the documents might be nearby." "You should summon your spirit and be prepared," Claire chided, though her words held a hint of concern. It was true that they could encounter danger at any moment in this place. Being prepared was crucial. "Well," Fianna faltered, unable to refute Claire's logic. But summoning her spirit was easier said than done. She bit her lip and turned away, trying to maintain her composure. "It's not the right time yet. The contracted spirit of the Ordesia royal family is different from your cat. It can't be summoned casually." "What did you say?" Claire bristled. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. "What's happening? Is that an earthquake?" "It must be the strategic class elemental." "The seal has been broken," Roy said, looking towards a nearby mountain. The mountain crumbled, collapsing inwards. Smoke and dust billowed from the newly formed chasm, obscuring the scene. "This is bad. That thief must have done this," Ellis exclaimed, clenching her fists. "What do we do? If the strategic class elemental falls into enemy hands, it'll be disastrous," Rinslet said worriedly. "Let's go check it out." "If the elemental has been released, we'll have to deal with it," Roy said with a shrug. The girls nodded in agreement, and they cautiously approached the collapsed mine. As the dust settled, they could finally see the strategic class elemental. It was Jormungandr, a monstrous serpent from Norse mythology, said to be large enough to encircle the world. It was the most powerful monster among the giants, known as the Midgard serpent. It was the second child of Loki, the god of mischief, and the giantess Angerboa. Its siblings were Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, and Hel, the goddess of death. Its nemesis was Thor, the god of thunder, the strongest among the gods. Due to its destructive potential, Odin had cast it into the depths of the ocean. The Jormungandr before them, although not the one from mythology, was similar in appearance. And its fate was also quite similar. Due to its ferocity and destructive tendencies in the elemental spirit world, it had been sealed by the elemental lords and cast out. It was then used by humans as a weapon of war. But it was eventually sealed again. Now, freed from its seal, it rampaged, destroying everything in its path. Claire and the others were terrified by its monstrous aura. Is that a strategic class elemental? It's terrifying. There's no way we can defeat that. It has been completely unsealed. I can't reseal it now. Don't worry, I'll handle the big snake. Your opponents are over there, Roy said calmly, pointing towards a group of figures approaching them. The girls followed his gaze. A horde of skeletons, armed with rusty swords and clubs, marched towards them. Black mist seeped from their bones, creating an eerie atmosphere. What are those? Are they spirits? Maybe they're corpses possessed by low-ranking spirits. Someone must be controlling them. The girls were startled but quickly regained their composure. Protect Fianna while you fight, Roy instructed Claire. Why do we have to protect her? Claire glared at Fianna, but she would obey Roy's orders. Fianna couldn't use her contracted spirit yet. But Roy didn't want to embarrass her by pointing that out. He smiled and vanished in a flash. Claire, as the leader of Team Scarlet, took charge. Ellis, you're the knight. Engage the enemies head-on. I'll provide support from the middle. Rinslet, you're the sniper. Stay back and watch out for whoever is controlling those skeletons, she ordered. What about me? Fianna asked, pointing at herself. I don't know your strength yet, and Roy told us to protect you. So, just stay behind us, Claire replied. In battle mode, Claire was a completely different person, a reliable leader. I can help too, Fianna mumbled, but she didn't argue. She had no way to defend herself and had to accept their protection. Following Claire's instructions, the girls charged towards the approaching skeletons. Sylphid Hurricane. Flame King's Breath. Ice Shot. Ellis, at the forefront, summoned her Ray Hawk and unleashed a whirlwind that scattered the skeletons. Claire, behind Ellis, lashed out with her flame whip, then launched a powerful fire spell that obliterated a large group of skeletons. Rinslet fired a barrage of arrows, each piercing through several skeletons. She also scanned the surroundings, trying to locate the one controlling the skeletons. The three girls worked together seamlessly. With Ellis holding the front line, Claire and Rinslet could focus on attacking from afar. Fianna, realizing she couldn't contribute, bit her lip in frustration. The skeletons seemed endless. Even after fighting for a while, they were still surrounded. And they were starting to tire. This is bad. Claire cursed under her breath. She shouldn't have charged into the horde. She suspected there was more than one person controlling the skeletons. Otherwise, their divine power would have been depleted by now. Just as they were struggling, Fianna finally spoke up. Claire, I have a way to deal with these skeletons, she declared with determination. What? You have a way? Claire asked, surprised, pausing her attacks. Yes. I learned a ritual dance at the Divine Ritual Institute. It can cause these skeletons to go berserk, Fianna explained. Claire considered this for a moment, then decided to trust her. All right, prepare the ritual dance. We'll protect you from these skeletons. If the skeletons went berserk, they would attack each other. Then, they could use the chaos to escape. Fianna smiled, grateful for Claire's trust. She took out a small fan and began to dance. Ritual dances could produce various effects depending on the dance performed. They could strengthen seals, bless elementalists, and much more. Fianna was performing the seventh ritual dance, the Dance of Berserker. It could activate and enrage sealed spirits. As Fianna danced, the flames within the skeleton's eye sockets turned crimson. The skeletons started attacking each other. The pressure on Claire, Ellis, and Rinslet lessened considerably. Only a few skeletons still targeted them. That should take care of them, Rinslet said, wiping the sweat from her brow. Don't let your guard down. The one controlling them hasn't appeared yet, Claire warned. Despite the improvement in their situation, she remained vigilant. Just then, a voice echoed through the horde of skeletons. Lightning Spirit, manifest. A bolt of lightning flashed. It tore through the skeletons, heading straight towards Fianna. "Look out!" Ellis shouted, jumping in front of Fianna and thrusting her ray hawk. Boom! Ah! The lightning bolt struck the ray hawk, sending Ellis flying. "Ellis, are you all right?" Claire caught her. "I'm fine. He's strong," Ellis said, wiping the blood from her lips, her expression stoic. "Don't worry, we're not alone," Claire reassured her. "Oh, fangs of ice, pierce my enemy!" Ice shot. Rinslet had spotted the attacker when he launched his lightning attack. She fired an ice arrow. Ha ha, not bad. The attacker dodged the arrow and emerged from the shadows. He had short red hair, crimson eyes, and his body was covered in strange markings. He didn't look like a good person. This was Gio Inzaghi. In the original story, he had claimed to be a demon lord candidate. But he was actually just a subordinate of Rubia Elstian, a test subject. He had been sent here by Rubia to unseal and control the strategic class elemental. "Who are you?" Claire demanded. "Ha ha ha, I am Gio Inzaghi." As expected of the Sylphid Knight captain. "You actually blocked my attack," Gio sneered, looking at Ellis. "Damn it! I won't allow you to tarnish the honor of the Sylphid Knights," Ellis declared, standing up and pointing her ray hawk at Gio. "Oh, winds of disaster, transform into countless blades and cut down my enemy." She unleashed another Sylphid hurricane. Wielding her ray hawk, she charged towards Gio, countless wind blades swirling around her. Even if he dodged the spear, he would be torn to shreds by the wind blades. But Mirror Spirit, appear! Reflect! Gio shouted. A shiny red mirror materialized before him. Ellis's attack struck the mirror, and the wind blades were reflected back at her. "Look out!" Claire cried, lashing out with her flame whip and wrapping it around Ellis's waist. She pulled Ellis back, saving her from her own reflected attack. "Thank you," Ellis said gratefully. "Now's not the time for that. We're a team," Claire scolded her for acting alone. "Why yes, I was reckless." Ellis apologized. "All right, let's attack together." "He's no match for us," Claire declared confidently. "Okay." Ellis and Rinslet nodded in agreement. They attacked as one. Ellis held the front line, blocking Gio's attacks. Claire and Rinslet unleashed their full power. Their coordinated assault forced Gio onto the defensive. Strictly speaking, Gio wasn't an elemental spirit contractor. He had been implanted with numerous cursed seals. These seals provided him with divine power, allowing him to use sealed spirits. Sealed spirits were different from ordinary elemental spirits. They were single-use consumables. He didn't have any contracted spirits. Under the girl's relentless assault, Gio began to falter. Just as he was about to be defeated, a clear voice rang out from behind him. "Retreat!" Gio looked towards the strategic class elemental. It had vanished. "Did you succeed?" he asked as he retreated. "No. Things didn't go as planned." "It seems the dusk which intervened," the voice replied. "Retreat. Although you're just a test subject, you're still valuable." Gio's face contorted with rage. "Taste the agony of rotting innards. Putrid poison spirit, manifest," he roared, attempting to escape. As Claire and the others pursued him, a thick purple mist enveloped the area. Claire coughed, covering her mouth and nose. Ellis and Rinslet also covered their faces, but it was too late. The poison had already entered their bodies. Just then, a gust of wind dispersed the mist. The girls gasped for breath, relieved. "Roy, you're back!" Rinslet exclaimed, seeing him. Roy had casually waved his hand, creating a gust of wind that blew away the poison. "You did well," he praised them. He had been observing their battle after dealing with Jormungandr. Overall, they had performed admirably. But they had been too eager to chase after Gio and had fallen for his trap. If Ellis had noticed the poison mist sooner, she could have easily dispersed it with her wind spirit. Damn it! He got away. Claire cursed. Chapter 114, Fianna's Confession and a Poisonous Battle. He was so close to defeating that man. He won't escape, Roy said calmly. Secret art, ice archery. A magnificent ice bomb materialized in his hand. Rinslet's eyes lit up at the sight of the bow. Roy loosed an arrow, and it flew towards Geo, who felt a chill run down his spine. Mirror spirit, manifest. A shiny silver mirror appeared before him. But the ice arrow split into countless smaller arrows, scattering towards him. Crash! The mirror shattered instantly. The arrows pierced Geo's body, pinning him to the ground. Amazing! Rinslet exclaimed, thrilled by the display of archery. Fianna and the others also looked at Roy with admiration. Ha, it was nothing, Roy said modestly, though he couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Meanwhile, on another hilltop, a girl's hood was blown back by the wind, revealing her golden hair. She had delicate features and a petite figure. She wore the uniform of another academy and had a large ribbon tied around her chest. This was Near Allenstarl, a subordinate of Rubia Elstian. She had been sent here by Rubia to retrieve the strategic class elemental. But before she could act, the elemental had been slain. She had witnessed the man effortlessly kill the strategic class elemental and then make its corpse disappear. His power was terrifying. She had decided to order Geo to retreat. But they hadn't been able to escape. Near glanced at Roy, her eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and apprehension, then vanished. Roy had sensed her presence but chose not to pursue her. After all, Rubia's subordinates were also his targets. All right, now that the mission is complete, let's head back, Roy announced with a smile. Claire and the others nodded, exhausted from the battle. They had also sustained some minor injuries and needed to return for treatment. But as they walked, they noticed Fianna lagging behind, her head lowered. Fianna, what's wrong? We're leaving, Claire said, looking at her curiously. After this battle, they had come to accept Fianna as one of their own. Fianna had been a great help during the fight. Although Claire was still puzzled by Fianna's refusal to use her contracted spirit, she didn't dwell on it. Fianna looked up with a sigh. She had decided to confess. I'll tell you now, since you'll find out eventually anyway. Claire, Ellis, and Rinslet exchanged confused glances. Roy, however, understood what Fianna was about to say. Fianna's expression turned serious. The reason I don't use my spirit in battle is because 4 years ago, I lost my ability to summon my contracted spirit. Fianna was the second princess of the Ordesia Empire, once considered a potential candidate to become an elemental princess, second only to Rubia Elstian. But she had abdicated her position and been stripped of her royal status. This was because she could no longer summon her contracted spirit. An elemental princess candidate who can't summon her spirit. Of course I'm not qualified, Fianna said with a self-deprecating laugh. An elemental spirit contractor who couldn't summon their spirit was no different from an ordinary person. It wasn't uncommon for an elementalist to suddenly lose their ability to summon their spirit. It could be due to various reasons, such as physical defilement, breaking a contractual oath, or even psychological trauma. In Fianna's case, it was the latter. The trauma stemmed from the incident 4 years ago when Rubia Elstian, the Calamity Queen, rebelled. Fianna, like Rubia, was a Princess Shrine Maiden candidate. When she tried to stop Rubia, she was easily defeated. This had caused her immense psychological trauma, severing her connection with her contracted spirit. Claire and the others finally understood why Fianna refused to summon her spirit. But they still had questions. But how did you pass the Academy entrance exam? There's a practical test, isn't there? I used Greyworth's special privileges to pass, Fianna admitted. She had been at the Academy for a while now. It was impossible for her secret to remain hidden forever. But with Headmaster Greyworth's protection, she hadn't been exposed. I see. But why go through all this trouble to attend this academy? Because. Fianna glanced at Roy, then said with a sly smile, I wanted to find my Prince Charming. Claire and Rinslet frowned, glaring at her. Fianna giggled. Just kidding. I came here to win the blade dance and have my wish to regain my spirit powers granted. For an elementalist, nothing was more devastating than losing their contracted spirit. Claire, Ellis, and Rinslet believed her. Well, I've told you my secret. Fianna cleared her throat. So, do you need an elementalist who can't summon her spirit? She looked at Roy and Claire with a hint of sadness in her eyes, despite her playful tone. Claire noticed that Fianna's fingers were trembling slightly. After a moment of consideration, she turned to Roy. Don't look at me. You decide, Roy said with a shrug. But if Fianna can regain her spirit powers, she'll be a valuable asset. Claire thought about it. Fianna was indeed strong. She was the second best student at the Divine Ritual Institute, and her ritual dances were incredibly useful. Even without her contracted spirit, she was a valuable teammate. Fianna already saved us. She's one of us now, Ellis declared. Although I don't like her, she's not a bad teammate, Rinslet admitted, despite her usual disdain for Fianna. Claire remained silent, seemingly lost in thought. Fianna looked downcast. Roy approached Claire and whispered in her ear, Let me tell you a secret about Fianna. What? Claire blushed, her cheeks warming from his closeness. She's actually using padding. Really? Claire glanced at Fianna's chest, then nodded. Fianna, you can be our teammate. After all, we're both members of the Flat-Chested Alliance. Fianna, initially pleased by Claire's acceptance, bristled at the flat-chested comment. Don't compare me to you. I'm much more endowed, she retorted, puffing out her chest. Oomph. It's just padding. Claire scoffed. Really? Really? Rinslet's eyes sparkled with excitement. Her bust was the largest among them, aside from Fianna's. If Fianna was using padding, then she undoubtedly had the largest assets. As a knight, I would never resort to such deception, Ellis declared, blushing slightly. As so? I'm using padding. What's wrong with that? Fianna retorted, crossing her arms defensively. So you're just a flat-chested girl after all? Claire sneered. Who are you calling flat-chested? I'm much bigger than you. What did you say? Seeing them about to start another argument, Roy gently pressed their heads down. All right, that's enough. We should head back. Don't you have injuries to treat? The girls realized he was right. They had all sustained some injuries during the battle. Especially the poison from Geo's attack, which was quite potent. They nodded and prepared to leave. But Roy stopped them. Wait, stay still. The girls looked at him in confusion. Roy smirked and snapped his fingers. A blue magic circle enveloped them. In the next instant, they vanished. They reappeared in Roy's villa at Aricia Spirit Academy. Roy had used his teleportation magic to return them instantly, instead of the day-long journey it had taken them to get there. The girls were dumbfounded. They looked around, recognizing their surroundings. Welcome back, Roy Oniai-chan. Alice and Kaneko greeted him excitedly. Their voices drew the other girls from the villa. Asia, Shizuka, come and heal them. Roy instructed. Okay. What happened? You're all injured. But thankfully, it's not serious, Asia said with concern, using her twilight healing to heal Ellis. Shizuka, in her usual caring manner, pulled Claire into a hug and began healing her. Claire, however, struggled to escape. She wasn't comfortable with Shizuka's embrace. Shizuka's ample bosom was suffocating her. Roy, sipping the tea Akino had prepared, watched them with amusement. Their injuries were minor, and they were soon healed. Roy, what was that earlier? Claire finally asked. Just a teleportation spell, Roy replied casually. Teleportation? they knew about teleportation magic. They used it to travel to the elemental spirit world for team battles. But they had never seen anyone teleport such a long distance so effortlessly. The academy was a day's journey away from Vidonalun. Yet, they had returned in the blink of an eye. It was incredible. They looked at Roy with admiration. "You're all tired. Go and rest," Roy said with a smile, patting Claire's head. "Okay." The girls nodded and left. "Roy, you're quite good at deceiving little girls, aren't you? You've already won them over in just a few days," Rias commented, her voice laced with jealousy. What can I say? There are so many talented girls here. And Rias can't take them all, so I had to step in," Roy replied with a shrug. Rias fumed. She also wanted to recruit more servants, but she didn't have unlimited evil pieces like Roy. "That's such a scumbag thing to say," Mine muttered, chewing on a lollipop. "Well, we're already on his pirate ship," Chelsea added with a sigh, also enjoying a lollipop. Ahem. Roy cleared his throat, hearing their whispers. "I'll have to punish Chelsea later," he thought. "She can transform into anything, perhaps we can try some new positions." "Curome, I brought you a gift from my trip," Roy suddenly said to Curome. "A gift?" Curome, who was enjoying some snacks with Akane, tilted her head curiously. "It's a giant snake called Jormungandr. It's over a kilometer long," Roy explained. After killing the strategic class elemental, he had stored its corpse, intending to let Curome control it with her Taigu. "Really?" Curome's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Of course. Your Yatsufusa should be able to control it." "Yay! I love you, Onie-chan." Curome cheered, hugging Roy tightly. "Roy really spoils Curome, doesn't he?" Leon commented with a sigh. The next morning, Roy summoned Fianna. "Roy, why did you call me so early? Are we going to do something naughty?" Fianna asked with a playful wink, her cheeks flushed. Roy flicked her forehead lightly. "Ow." Fianna clutched her head dramatically. "I called you here to ask if you want to regain your ability to summon your contracted spirit." "Eh?" Fianna's eyes widened in surprise. "Do you have a way?" she asked hopefully. "We can try," Roy replied with a smile. Chapter 115, A Knightly Spirit, Festival Gifts and Romantic Discoveries. Fianna couldn't summon her contracted spirit due to the trauma she had suffered. But Roy had a way to force it out. "What should I do?" Fianna asked. "Try summoning your spirit," Roy instructed. Fianna nodded and began chanting the summoning incantation. "O sword saint who serves the king of mankind, my knight, I hereby fulfill the blood contract. Become my guardian sword and come to my side. Appear, sacred knight spirit, Georgios. I command you, become my guardian sword." Despite her earnest chanting, her contracted spirit, Georgios, didn't respond. Fianna's expression fell. Roy stroked his chin thoughtfully. He then grabbed Fianna's hand. "Eh?" Fianna blushed, surprised by his sudden action. Roy ignored her flustered reaction and used his magic to communicate with Georgios through Fianna's spirit seal. As a hereditary spirit of the Ordizia Empire, Georgios was a high-ranking light elemental with immense power. Soon, Roy established contact with Georgios, who was in the elemental spirit world. He then used his magic to forcibly pull her out. Whoa! A knight clad in silver armor suddenly appeared in the air, then tumbled to the ground, her skirt riding up in the process. "Georgios?" Fianna gasped, recognizing her contracted spirit. "Ouch!" The knight groaned, rubbing her head as she stood up. She looked at Fianna in surprise. "You must be my contractor." Fianna nodded shyly. "Contractor, there's no need to be ashamed. I understand your situation." "I've been waiting for your summons," Georgios said with a cheerful smile. Really?" "Yes. But. Contractor, as long as you have courage, you can summon me." Georgios encouraged her. "Okay. Fianna nodded with determination. A warmth spread through her heart, filling her with strength. Even the spirit seal on her arm glowed. I can feel it. I can connect with her again. Fianna's eyes filled with tears of joy. The spirit seal, which had been dormant for 4 years, was active again. Thank you, Georgios. Don't mention it. But, how did I get here? Georgios suddenly realized she had been forcibly dragged here by some unknown force. Ahem. Roy coughed, hinting at his involvement. Eh? Georgios turned to Roy. Her eyes widened in recognition, and she quickly knelt on one knee. Georgios greets the Mausama. You recognize me? Roy asked, surprised. Yes, Mausama. I was just a mid-ranking spirit back then, so it's understandable that you wouldn't remember me, Georgios replied. She had been one of the night spirits guarding the temple when Roy ruled the elemental spirit world. Over the thousands of years, she had finally become a high-ranking spirit. Oh, I see. Roy nodded in understanding. He hadn't expected to meet someone he knew here. Mausama? What are you talking about? Fianna asked, confused. The Mausama is the one who ruled the elemental spirit world, Georgios explained with reverence. The Mao who ruled the elemental spirit world? Fianna echoed, trying to recall the name. She vaguely remembered reading about him during her time at the Divine Ritual Institute. All right, you can go back now, Roy said to Georgios. Yes, Mausama. Georgios bowed respectfully and returned to the elemental spirit world. Fianna was still deep in thought. Don't strain your brain, idiot, Roy said, patting her head. Fianna, distracted by his touch, forgot about her thoughts. Thank you, Roy, she said, hugging him tightly. Just then. Roy, we're here. Claire's voice called out from the doorway. She opened the door and saw Roy and Fianna embracing. What are you two doing? She exclaimed, pointing at them accusingly. What does it look like we're doing? Fianna retorted, snuggling closer to Roy. She was surprised by their sudden arrival but decided to tease Claire. Scarlet, incinerate her. Georgios, get rid of that noisy woman. A fire cat and a knight in shining armor appeared. The cat hissed, and the knight drew her sword. Cut it out, you two. Roy sighed, using his magic to restrain the two spirits. Scarlet and Georgios, recognizing Roy, immediately calmed down and stood obediently. Is that a night spirit? Fianna, can you use your spirit now? Ellis gasped. Claire and Rinslet also stared at the night spirit in surprise. Of course. My night spirit is much stronger than your cat, Fianna declared, sticking her tongue out at Claire. Humph. My Scarlet won't lose to you, Claire retorted, crossing her arms. Seeing their rivalry flare up again, Roy quickly changed the subject. Claire, you must have come here for something, right? Oh, that's right. Claire exclaimed, remembering their purpose. We completed the mission, and Team Scarlet is now ranked first in the academy. She was thrilled. They had even surpassed Velsaria, who was considered the strongest elementalist in the academy. However, being first didn't mean they could relax. Before the blade dance, the second-ranked team could challenge them for the top spot. And the third-ranked team could challenge the second-ranked team, and so on. To maintain their position, they had to defeat Velsaria's team, which was currently ranked second. I just received news that Velsaria is planning to challenge us in a week, Claire announced, her expression turning serious. Velsaria's name struck fear into the hearts of many students. Even Claire was a bit apprehensive. Oh? So soon? It seems she's not happy about losing her top spot, Roy chuckled. Ever since she was defeated in the blade dance 3 years ago, she's become a different person, Ellis said sadly. Don't worry, Ellis. I'm sure Velsaria will come around, Roy reassured her. He then turned to Claire. Your next opponent is the strongest elementalist in the academy. Are you prepared? Of course, we're ready. I won't lose this time. Bring it on. We'll defeat them. I'll do my best to help my sister return to her senses. Roy nodded, pleased with their determination. Over the next few days, Claire and the others practiced and honed their teamwork. The upcoming battle was crucial. And now that Fianna could use her spirit, their team's strength had increased significantly. Roy, on the other hand, had some free time. One day, while strolling through town with Rias, he overheard people talking about the upcoming Spirit Festival. He remembered that it was also Claire's birthday. It seemed he needed to prepare something for the occasion. They passed by an accessory shop, and an idea struck him. Early the next morning, Roy was dragged out of bed by Nezuko. "Nezuko, what's the rush?" he mumbled, following her with a yawn. He snapped his fingers, and his clothes were instantly cleaned and straightened with magic. "Come with me, Roy Oniai-chan." Nezuko pulled him along. She led him to the dining room. "Happy Spirit Festival, Roy." Rias and the other girls had prepared various cakes and chocolates, presenting them to him with cheerful smiles. The sweet aroma filled the air. "Thank you, everyone." Roy was touched. He hadn't expected them to prepare gifts. He then presented them with the gifts he had carefully chosen from the accessory shop. Although not expensive, they were tokens of his appreciation. "These are for you." Roy used his magic to deliver the gifts to each of them. "Wow, they're beautiful." "Thank you, Roy Oniai-chan. This is the first gift Roy has given me. I'll treasure it forever." Me too, me too." Roy was relieved that they liked his gifts. He wasn't very experienced in choosing gifts for girls. "Roy, try my chocolate." Rias chirped, offering him her homemade chocolate. "Okay, let me try." "It's delicious." Rias's cooking skills were quite good. "Roy-senpai, try my cake too." Kaneko offered him some cat-shaped cookies. "Alright, let me try." It's great." "Roy, try mine too." "No, try mine first." The girls eagerly offered him their cakes and chocolates, overwhelming him with sweets. After tasting everything, Roy felt like he was going to die from a sugar overdose. At noon, Claire dragged him away. Roy sat on the sofa in Claire's room, bored. Claire and Scarlett were busy in the kitchen. After a while, they emerged. Claire carried a tray covered with a lid. Roy knew this must be her Spirit Festival gift. He just hoped it wasn't more chocolate or cake. He looked at Claire, admiring her appearance. Her red pigtails swayed as she moved. Her clear ruby eyes, her soft white skin, her cherry red lips. Although her figure was a bit lacking, her overall appearance was quite charming. Claire was truly adorable. Even among the many beauties of Aricia Spirit Academy, she was one of the most attractive. And today, she wasn't wearing her usual school uniform. She had a cute apron with frills. The small chef's hat on her head made her even more adorable. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Claire asked, blushing under his intense gaze. "Because you're so cute today, Claire," Roy replied with a smile. "Mum." Claire blushed even harder. "By the way, what did you make?" Roy asked, changing the subject before Claire fainted from embarrassment. "It's the Spirit Festival today, so I'm practicing my baking. But don't get any ideas." "This is just for a friend," Claire said, trying to play it cool. "Just a friend?" Roy sighed dramatically. Claire panicked. Then what?" "I thought I was someone you could entrust your life to," Roy teased. "And no way." Claire shook her head, blushing furiously. Roy chuckled, then lifted the lid from the tray. A sweet aroma filled the air. There were several cat paw-shaped cookies on the tray. Did Scarlett help her make these? Roy wondered, glancing at the cat spirit, who was also dressed up today. "I'll try one then." He picked up a cookie and took a bite. "How is it?" Claire and Scarlett asked expectantly. It's delicious." Roy nodded in satisfaction. Claire had a natural talent for baking. The cookies were surprisingly good. They had clearly put a lot of effort into them. That's great. Claire beamed, relieved. She had worked hard to make these cookies. Seeing Roy's satisfied expression, she felt her efforts were worth it. Here, Claire, have one too. Roy pulled Claire down to sit beside him and fed her a cookie. Mum. Claire blushed, flustered by his action. He had just fed her a cookie. Roy-sama, I want some too. Scarlett chimed in, sitting beside him. Sure. Roy, after a moment of surprise, also fed Scarlett. Chapter 116, Spirit Festival Surprises and a Team Battle. Since you've all prepared gifts for the Spirit Festival, I can't be biased, Roy said, taking out a necklace. It was a ruby necklace with a cute cat engraving. Happy birthday, Claire, he said, handing it to her. Claire's eyes welled up with tears. It had been years since anyone had said those words to her. The last time she had heard them was from her sister. Every year, on the Spirit Festival, her parents, her sister, and the local residents would gather at their castle for a grand birthday day ball. Claire would wear a beautiful dress, and the table would be filled with her favorite cakes and delicious food. And at night, she would sleep with her sister, who would return from the Divine Ritual Institute just for this day. Those were Claire's happiest memories. She threw her arms around Roy. Thank you. I love it, she said, taking the necklace and putting it on, her smile radiant. Close your eyes, Roy, she then instructed, her face flushed. Roy, knowing better than to question her, closed his eyes. He felt Claire leaning closer and mischievously opened his eyes. Seeing her with her eyes closed, her eyelashes fluttering, he couldn't resist. He captured her lips in a gentle kiss. After a while, he released her. Claire was dazed. And here's one for Scarlett. Roy took out another cat-shaped necklace, a bit different from Claire's but equally beautiful. Thank you, Roy-sama. Scarlett exclaimed, accepting the gift and then, to Roy's surprise, kissing him on the lips. He was taken aback by her boldness. Just then, a knock came from the door. Seeing Claire still dazed, Roy got up to answer it. Rinslet? What are you doing here? It was indeed Rinslet. She peeked into the room, then, seeing that Claire wasn't paying attention, grabbed Roy's hand and pulled him away. Come with me. Roy, glancing at the still-dazed Claire, could only let himself be dragged away. Claire is going to be furious when she wakes up, he thought with amusement. Rinslet led him to her room and had him sit down, then went to the kitchen. Roy knew what she was up to. He just hoped it wasn't cake. He had already eaten enough sweets for one day. Carol, what's Rinslet's Spirit Festival gift? Roy asked the maid, who was tidying up the room. Roy-san, you know about it? Carol asked, surprised. I received a lot of Spirit Festival gifts today, Roy explained with a chuckle. I see. But my lady's gift is special. You'll love it. Carol declared confidently. She was glad that Rinslet had listened to her advice and prepared a unique gift. Oh? Is that so? Roy was intrigued. After a while, Carol was called to the dining room. Roy wanted to follow, but Carol stopped him. He waited curiously. What are those two up to, he wondered. But he didn't peek. Finally, Carol returned, her face flushed. Roy-san, you can come in now, she announced. Roy followed her to the dining room. Whoa! He gasped as he saw Rinslet. She was lying on the dining table, her body adorned with various sweets and fruits. This girl is really something, Roy thought, impressed by her boldness. Stop staring. I'm embarrassed, Rinslet mumbled, her face crimson as she closed her eyes. Well then, I'll dig in. Roy picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Carol peeled grapes and fed them to him. This was truly a life fit for a king. After enjoying this unique Spirit Festival experience, Roy gave Rinslet and Carol their gifts. He was then shooed out of the room by the flustered Rinslet. Roy shrugged as he looked at the closed door. Despite her bold actions, Rinslet was still quite shy. Carol must have convinced her to do this. He walked down the hallway of the girls' dormitory. Many girls, seeing him, their eyes lit up. They surrounded him, holding out chocolates and cakes. "Roy-san, please try my cake. And my chocolate. I made it myself. Get out of the way. Roy-san should try my cheese first. Is that even cheese? It looks like charcoal. What? You dare insult my cheese? So what? My cookies are much better than yours." The girls chattered excitedly, crowding around Roy. Roy sighed, feeling a headache coming on. Just as he was about to teleport away. "What are you all doing here? Go back to your rooms," a commanding voice boomed. "It's Ellis Bucho. Too bad. Now Roy-san won't be able to try my cake. I was going to invite him to my room. He could have anything he wanted. You're so bold. But that does sound exciting. After all, he's the Night Demon King. He wouldn't refuse, right?" Alice blushed, hearing their gossip. "Go back to your rooms. Stop causing a commotion," she scolded. The girls reluctantly dispersed. "Roy, are you all right?" Alice asked, approaching him. "Of course. It's nice to be so popular," Roy replied with a chuckle. Could you come to my room?" Alice asked shyly, her face flushed. "Is something the matter?" "Just come with me." Alice grabbed his hand and pulled him along. Not again. He had just been dragged away by Rinslet. But he was curious about what kind of spirit festival gift Alice had prepared. Alice led Roy to her room and into the dining area. "Please wait a moment," she said before rushing to the kitchen. Even a serious night has a cute side. "I wonder what she's prepared," Roy mused, waiting patiently. Soon, Alice returned, carrying a tray. She was dressed in a dark blue maid outfit with a white apron, her long skirt adorned with frills. A small maid headband completed her look. Roy's eyes widened. Alice had transformed into a maid. "She looks beautiful," he thought. Alice approached him, her face flushed, and set down the tray. She lifted the lid, revealing an assortment of small pastries and a pot of hot tea. "I'll dig in then," Roy said, reaching for a pastry. "Wait." Alice stopped him. Roy looked at her curiously. Alice bowed slightly. "Master, would you like to eat first, or take a bath, or perhaps, have me first?" Roy stared at her, dumbfounded. He hadn't expected such suggestive words from the usually serious and composed Alice. Her unexpected boldness tempted him. "Is something wrong with what I said?" Alice asked shyly, averting her gaze. "Alice, who taught you to say that?" Roy asked, his curiosity piqued. Rashia and the others taught me." "Is it wrong to say that?" Alice fidgeted nervously. "Rashia? The knight with the braided hair?" "It's not wrong, but you can only say that to me," Roy said with a chuckle. "This is the first time I've said that, and I won't say it to anyone else," Alice assured him. "Good." Roy nodded in satisfaction. "So, Roy, what would you like to do first?" Alice asked. "Ahem, let's eat first," Roy replied, though he was tempted to say have you. After enjoying the pastries, Roy gave Alice her gift and left her room. "Roy, you're finally out!" Fianna exclaimed, seemingly having waited for him. Indeed, Fianna had arrived later than Claire. When she went to Roy's villa, she was told that he had gone with Claire. She then waited outside Claire's room but was dragged away by some of the younger students. By the time she managed to escape those clingy girls, Roy had already been taken away by Rinslet. She was fuming. She had tried to catch him after he left Rinslet's room, but a crowd of love-struck students blocked her way. And just when she thought she had finally caught him, Alice whisked him away. Fianna was going crazy. Now that she had finally caught him, she wasn't letting him go. "Come with me." she declared, pulling Roy along. Roy was used to being dragged around by girls. Fianna led him to her room and then straight into her bedroom. Fianna, where are the snacks you prepared? Roy asked, confused. I don't have any. Then why did you bring me here? To give you my Spirit Festival gift, of course. Fianna replied, pulling him towards the bed. What is it? Roy asked curiously. Fianna leaned closer and whispered in his ear, her face flushed. It's... A week passed quickly. The day of the team battle arrived. The members of Team Scarlet gathered at the Stone Ring. This was one of the few gates to the elemental spirit world within the Ordesia Empire. A large crowd of students had gathered to watch the match. Today's battle was between Team Scarlet, ranked first in the academy, and Team Valseria, led by the so-called strongest elementalist. A large screen was set up near the gate, allowing the students to watch the blade dance in the elemental spirit world. This screen was also used by the academy for research purposes. It was the latest technology exclusive to Ordesia Spirit Academy. Besides the students, the members of the Sylphid Knights were also present. Claire, as the leader of Team Scarlet, reviewed their strategy one last time. Ellis, you're the best at close combat, so you'll be our vanguard. Yes, I'll definitely pierce a hole in my sister's elemental waff, Ellis declared with determination. I'll take down that fortress girl, Rinslet added, referring to Valseria's teammate with the large shield. I'll provide support with my defensive abilities and ritual dances, Fianna chimed in. The three of them would handle offense, support, and defense. Claire, who was proficient in all three areas, would adapt to the situation and lead the team. She knew that individually, none of them could match Valseria's strength. But as a team, they might have a chance. Moreover, although Valseria's teammates were all skilled upperclassmen from the Sylphid Knights, they were essentially a team formed just to meet the required number of members. They likely hadn't had much time to practice teamwork. And they might not even be coordinated with Valseria, their leader. I'll just be a spectator then, Roy said with a shrug. A spectator? The girls were confused. It means I'll just watch, Roy explained patiently. Don't worry, Roy. We can defeat Valseria even without your help, Claire declared confidently. Her recent increase in strength had boosted her confidence. That's right. We will win, Rinslet agreed, flipping her hair. Go! You can defeat my sister. Ellis cheered, extending her hand. Claire, Rinslet, and Fianna placed their hands on top of hers. Let's do this! They shouted in unison, their auras flaring with determination. Chapter 117, The Blade Dance Tournament and Valseria's Power. Just then, the crowd parted, and a hush fell over the students. Valseria Eva Farangart, clad in a pristine white coat, emerged from the crowd, followed by four upperclassmen from the former Sylphid Knights. She stopped before Claire and the others, her icy blue eyes fixed on Ellis with a cold, disdainful look. Ellis, I thought you were smarter than this. It seems I was mistaken. Ellis met her gaze with defiance, her heart filled with determination. She couldn't lose. She had to secure a spot in the blade dance for Raka and Rashia, who had entrusted her with their dreams. And for her fellow Sylphid Knights who believed in her. I will defeat you, Valseria. I'll surpass you and prove my own path as a knight, Ellis declared. How foolish. Then I shall crush your so-called knight's path completely, Valseria sneered. The bell signaling the start of the match rang out. The ancient relic, the stone ring, activated, opening the gate to the elemental spirit world. A flash of white light engulfed the two teams, transporting them to the battleground. The students watching the match erupted in excited chatter. It's starting. I'm so nervous. I wonder if the Night Demon King will be defeated easily. Why are you worried about him? Shouldn't you be worried about Valseria Senpai? She's the strongest elementalist in the academy. That man is no match for her. But Roy-san blocked Lux Senpai's ultimate attack. Even Valseria Senpai couldn't do that unscathed. Team Scarlet materialized in a clearing within a dense forest. The thick foliage limited their visibility, making it difficult to locate the enemy team. Claire quickly confirmed that her teammates were safe. "Scarlet, let's go," she declared, summoning her fiery cat spirit. Ellis and the others also began chanting their summoning incantations. "Ellis and I will search for the enemy. Fianna, you set up the formation," Claire instructed. Fianna's task was to find a safe location and perform the fourth ritual dance, the Song of Glory. This dance would channel divine power from the earth veins to their allies within the area of effect. "There's no need for that, Claire Rouge," a voice suddenly interrupted. The members of Team Scarlet froze. They looked up and saw a massive fortress floating in the air. It was Velsaria, clad in her elemental waff, the Dreadnought. "Is Velsaria planning to fight us alone?" Claire gasped in surprise. "It seems so," Roy replied with a chuckle, his arms crossed. "Forget those nuisances. Your opponent is me," Velsaria declared coldly. It seemed she had abandoned her teammates. "Look out! Here she comes!" Rinslet shouted in alarm. The fortress's armor unfolded, revealing countless cannons. Velsaria, the strongest elementalist in the academy, looked down at them like an empress, her hand raised. "Disappear! Crushed beneath my dreadnought!" Dozens of cannons fired simultaneously. Boom! 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 The ground shook as a barrage of projectiles rained down on them. The destructive power of her strongest elemental waff was overwhelming. "How boring. You're all just small fry," Velsaria scoffed, watching the explosions and dust clouds. She assumed they had been defeated by her attack. The once lush forest was now a wasteland, riddled with craters. As the dust settled, a figure emerged from the wreckage. "What?" Velsaria's eyes widened in shock. Rinslet, wielding her icebow, stood there with a fearless grin. "Humph. No one can match my speed when it comes to summoning an elemental waff," she declared, then fired an ice shot. Although her claim was debatable, she was indeed the fastest in Aricia Spirit Academy. "Useless effort," Velsaria scoffed. She shifted her fortress's armor, deflecting the ice arrow. "I'm not done yet." Rinslet continued her assault, firing a barrage of arrows. The ice projectiles soared through the air, all four striking the fortress. However, they couldn't penetrate its armor. Although Rinslet's Fenrir was slowly regaining its strength, it wasn't fast enough. Compared to the original story, Rinslet wasn't much stronger. "How foolish. Your puny arrows are meaningless against my dreadnought," Velsaria sneered. "Oh? Are you sure about that?" Rinslet smirked, twirling her golden hair. "What?" Velsaria was about to retaliate when she finally realized Rinslet's true intention. Rinslet wasn't aiming to damage the armor. She was using the freezing effect of her ice shots. Velsaria's armor was now encased in ice. "Just as you planned, Claire," Rinslet said with a grin. "Yes. The dreadnought has high defense against physical attacks, but it's vulnerable to elemental attacks," Claire explained. Velsaria's face was etched with worry. Her cannons couldn't fire in this state. And the ice encasing her armor had increased its weight, drastically reducing her mobility. The fortress was now a sitting duck. "Ellis, counterattack," Claire commanded. "Yes." Claire and Ellis chanted their incantations simultaneously. They unleashed their magic towards the immobile fortress. "Take this. Blazing Inferno. O winds of disaster, become a blade that cuts through all. Sylphid Hurricane." Velsaria couldn't evade their attacks. Boom! The explosions shook the air. "We hit her!" Claire exclaimed. Even with the armor's protection, Velsaria couldn't have emerged unscathed from that attack. But then... "Is that all you've got, little sister of the Calamity Queen?" Velsaria's voice rang out from the smoke. "What?" The ground shook violently. Dust and debris filled the air. Claire was thrown back by the powerful shockwave. It was like a meteor had struck the ground. A massive crater appeared, and at its center stood the dreadnought. "Well done. You actually managed to knock me down," Velsaria chuckled. The impact of the fall had shattered the ice encasing her armor. "But that's as far as you go. My contracted spirit is an earth elemental. I'm even stronger on the ground." The dreadnought extended two massive arms with sharp claws at their ends. The claws tore through the remaining trees. "Impressive destructive power, but your movements are full of openings," Ellis commented, seizing the opportunity. She swung her windishlance, launching a blade of wind towards Velsaria. But the dreadnought was no longer there. Velsaria had moved with incredible speed, appearing before Ellis in an instant. Her movements were like gliding across the ground. Her mobility was far greater than when she was flying. "Ellis, look out!" Claire shouted, lashing out with her flame whip and wrapping it around the fortress's arm, slowing its movement. But that was all she could do. The immense power behind the attack was too much for her whip to withstand. "I'll take it," Fianna declared. A knight clad in shining armor appeared, wielding a massive shield. It was Fianna's contracted spirit, Georgios. The knight spirit used all its strength to block the fortress's attack. Its armored boots sank deep into the ground. A deafening clang echoed through the air. However, even the knight spirit, with its unparalleled defense, couldn't completely withstand the onslaught. Its armor started to buckle, and a large crack appeared on its shield. "Georgios, hold on!" Fianna cried out, worried. "Lost Queen candidate, I didn't expect you to be foolish enough to oppose me," Velsaria sneered, glaring at the knight spirit. "Humph! You're the foolish one," Fianna retorted. Velsaria raised her arm, preparing to strike again. "Not so fast!" Claire shouted, leaping onto the raised arm and wrapping her flame whip around its claws. She had used her whip earlier not to restrain the fortress but to get closer to Velsaria. At this range, even the armor couldn't completely protect her. Claire was a master of high-speed incantations. She unleashed her most powerful attack on the surprised Velsaria. "Dance, crimson flames of destruction! Flame King's breath!" A massive fireball engulfed Velsaria. "You damn fly!" Velsaria cursed, gritting her teeth. That attack had hurt. She swung her arm, trying to crush Claire. Just then, "Wanisama, face reality!" Ellis shouted. Boom! A powerful gust of wind descended from above. Ellis's windishlance pierced Velsaria's chest armor. "Gah!" Velsaria cried out in pain. But it wasn't over yet. "Oh, winds of disaster, tear my enemy apart!" Ellis chanted. A powerful tornado erupted from the ground, lifting the dreadnought into the air. Crash! The fortress slammed into the ground, creating a massive cloud of dust. Huff, huff! Ellis collapsed, exhausted from the attack. Claire also panted, licking her lips. "Velsaria, you were too arrogant. Fighting us alone was foolish," she taunted. "You're the foolish one," Claire Rouge Velsaria's voice rang out, seemingly unharmed. "What?" The four girls stared at the dust cloud in disbelief. A massive figure was moving within the dust. "Incompetent weaklings are nothing but stepping stones before true strength. You're worthless." The dust settled, revealing the dreadnought, its armor unscathed. "Disappear!" Velsaria roared, and the fortress unleashed another barrage of cannon fire. Roy watched the battle with amusement. It reminded him of a boss fight in a video game. Claire and the others were the players trying to defeat the boss, Velsaria. Although Velsaria had been pushed back, she still seemed to have plenty of energy left. Claire and the others, however, were exhausted. This was because Velsaria had a cursed seal that provided her with a vast amount of divine power. Velsaria Senpai's blade dance is amazing. She's the strongest elementalist in the academy. She's incredible. Velsaria Senpai is my idol now. Why isn't the Night Demon King doing anything? Is he scared? No way. The Night Demon King is the strongest. The students watching the match on the large screen were buzzing with excitement. The battle intensified. As the dreadnought continued its barrage, Rinslet fired her ice shots. Ice and fire clashed, creating a shower of sparkling fragments. Damn it! Does that fortress girl have an endless supply of divine power? Rinslet yelled, wiping the sweat from her brow. Although her ice shots were more powerful, if this turned into a drawn-out artillery battle, Velsaria would have the advantage. Rinslet would run out of energy first. My night spirit is reaching its limit, Fianna said, panting. Georgios's shield was covered in cracks from blocking the relentless barrage. Claire and Ellis couldn't get close to Velsaria. Facing the impenetrable fortress, Team Scarlet's attack ceased. Their only option was to wait for Velsaria to exhaust her divine power. But Georgios, protecting the four girls, wouldn't last much longer. We can't win against Wanisama? Ellis murmured, biting her lip in frustration. Come on, Ellis, I believe you can defeat her. Roy cheered from the sidelines, casually munching on sunflower seeds. Claire and the others rolled their eyes at his nonchalant attitude. The battle raged on. Chapter 118, Velsaria's defeat and a celebration party. Hearing his encouragement, Ellis blushed, a surge of energy coursing through her. You're right. We won't lose, she declared with renewed determination. But what do we do? The cannon fire is too intense. We can't get close, Fianna said, her brow furrowed in worry. We have one last resort. Create an opening for us, Claire said, her eyes fixed on the dreadnought. Will it work? Ellis asked, stepping forward to protect them. I don't know, but we have to try, Claire replied. Just then. Claire. I can't hold on any longer. Fianna cried out. Georgios, the night spirit, who had been shielding them from the relentless barrage, finally faltered and collapsed. Its form dissolved into particles of light. Claire seized the opportunity and charged forward. This was their only chance, while Velsaria was momentarily distracted by Georgios's defeat. Ellis also dashed towards Velsaria from the other side. Velsaria hesitated, unsure who to target first. She decided to focus her fire on Claire. Taking out the leader first was a logical strategy. But Claire had anticipated this. Scarlet, she called out. Scarlet transformed from her whip form back into her cat form and darted through the hail of projectiles, leaping towards Velsaria. Useless! Velsaria roared, swatting the fire cat away with her mecha arm. She then turned her cannons towards Scarlet. Although she noticed Claire approaching as well, she didn't see her as a threat without her elemental waff. Claire reached Velsaria and touched the armor on her leg. Then, she unleashed the spirit magic she had been chanting while charging. Oh, icy soul, bear witness to my rage and sorrow. Blood Sonata. This magic caused vibrations within the target's body, generating intense heat. However, it required direct contact to activate, making it difficult to use in combat. How foolish. Your puny spirit magic can't damage my dreadnought's armor, Velsaria sneered. She swung her arm, knocking Claire away. Just then. Ice shot. Rinslet's arrow struck the spot on the armor where Claire had touched. I told you it was useless. What? Velsaria's eyes widened in shock. It seems, it wasn't entirely useless, Claire said, wiping the blood from her lips. Destruction through rapid temperature change, so that was your plan. It's a basic tactic when you have both a flame elementalist and an ice elementalist on your team. This was Claire's trump card. Although the chances of success were slim, they had managed to create a crack in the armor. Crack! Crack! The crack spread. And then... Ellis, riding a gust of wind, charged forward with her windishlance. Her attack was swift and powerful. The spear pierced through the damaged armor and struck Velsaria in the chest. Damn it! Ellis! Velsaria cried out in alarm. "Oh, winds of disaster, roar!" With her spear embedded in Velsaria's chest, Ellis unleashed a powerful gust of wind. The wind tore through the weakened armor, shattering it into pieces. Velsaria was thrown into the air, then crashed to the ground. Huff, huff, huff. Ellis collapsed, exhausted. Did we win? Velsaria lay on the ground, seemingly unconscious. No, she wasn't unconscious yet. Her body started to convulse violently. "I can't lose." "What?" Claire frowned. Then, an unbelievable scene unfolded before their eyes. The shattered fragments of the elemental waff began to transform. "Wani-sama." Ellis whispered, her eyes wide with shock. "A cack." Velsaria's scream echoed through the forest. "What is that?" Rinslet exclaimed. The students watching the match on the screen were in an uproar. Velsaria's elemental waff was taking on a grotesque form. Black armor enveloped her body, resembling a skeletal knight. Divine power seeped from the gaps in the armor like mist, glowing faintly. The visible divine power indicated that something was terribly wrong. "It's a cursed seal," Roy explained. "Wani-sama implanted a cursed seal?" Ellis gasped. Why would her sister, the strongest elementalist in the academy, resort to such a dangerous method? The Black Knight roared. Velsaria's 4 teammates, sensing the danger, rushed towards her. They were the former Sylphid Knights she had recruited. They had been hiding until now, likely following Velsaria's orders. But the Black Knight swatted them away with a swing of its arm. Blood splattered. A deep gash appeared on one of the knights' bodies. Everyone was stunned. A physical injury caused by a spirit's direct attack meant that the elementalist had lost control of their contracted spirit. An alarm blared, signaling the suspension of the match. "Claire, come back!" Roy called out. "Roy, what's wrong with her?" Claire asked, rushing to his side. "Her spirit is going berserk because of the cursed seal," Roy explained. "I see. But what do we do now?" Rinslet asked, looking at the remains of the dreadnought. Black mist, like sentient tendrils, crept towards them from the Black Knight. The 4 girls were exhausted and had little divine power left. "I'll handle this," Roy declared, stepping forward. He reached out with his hand. "Yes, Master." The white spirit seal on his arm glowed, and Est materialized as the demon-slaying sword. Roy effortlessly cut down the approaching tendrils, then placed a hand on Ellis's head. "Don't worry, Ellis. I'll bring your sister back," he said with a reassuring smile. "I believe you," Ellis replied, blushing. Claire, seeing Roy patting Ellis's head, pouted. "Roy, I want head pats too," a childish voice demanded. It was Est. "Sure, once you take care of that idiot, you can have all the head pats you want," Roy chuckled, looking at the demon-slaying sword. "Roy spoils Est too much," Fianna grumbled, her voice laced with jealousy. The other girls also seemed envious. Roy smirked. He walked towards Velsaria. Countless black tendrils lashed out at him, but he effortlessly cut them down. "Raff!" Velsaria roared in frustration. She charged towards Roy, her dreadnought now a monstrous Black Knight. Roy wanted to show Velsaria the futility of relying on external power, so he didn't defeat her immediately. He allowed her to attack with her full strength. The dreadnought's massive arms slammed towards him, but Roy effortlessly blocked them with his sword. Seeing her attacks ineffective, Velsaria retreated and aimed all her cannons at him. Boom! 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 The fortress unleashed its full firepower. Roy was engulfed in a sea of explosions. The attack could devastate an area hundreds of meters wide. Its power was comparable to a high-class devil's attack, but it was nothing compared to his supreme Taigu. Claire and the others gasped but didn't act rashly. The students watching the screen were also worried. Will Roy-san be alright? Humph. The Night Demon King is the strongest. He won't be defeated. That woman is crazy. Why aren't the instructors stopping Velsaria-senpai? Compared to the students' concern, Rias and the others were calm. They knew such attacks were nothing to Roy. A gust of wind suddenly swept through the battlefield, dispelling the smoke and dust. Roy stood there unharmed, a calm smile on his face. Velsaria roared in anger. Just then, the dreadnought underwent an unexpected transformation. Its wrists shifted and elongated, forming a massive spear. No, it was more like a giant battering ram. Roy, watch out. My sister's specialty is spearmanship. Ellis warned. Even Ellis's spearmanship had been taught by Velsaria. It was her most powerful weapon. Velsaria charged, her fortress wielding the massive spear. Countless spear attacks rained down on Roy. But no matter how ferocious her attacks were, they were ineffective. Roy effortlessly blocked every strike without even moving from his spot. Claire and the others were awestruck by his power. It's time to end this, Roy declared with a smirk. He vanished in a flash, reappearing before Velsaria. The sword pierced through Dreadnought, its silver light shining brightly. The Dreadnought shattered. Velsaria, it's time to wake up. Your sister admires you, you know, Roy said softly, holding the weakened Velsaria in his arms. Velsaria's beautiful face emerged from the shattered black armor. You're that man, she murmured, staring at Roy's star-like eyes. Her heart, burdened by the cursed seal, skipped a beat. Her cheeks flushed. She averted her gaze. Velsaria, I understand your desire for strength, but resorting to such dangerous methods was reckless, Roy chided gently. You have great potential. With the right opportunities, you can definitely overcome your limitations. Velsaria's eyes lit up. Indeed. I wanted to become stronger, to defeat that person. She mumbled, referring to the masked girl with crimson hair who had defeated her in the previous blade dance. Please teach me how to become stronger, she pleaded, clutching Roy's clothes. No problem, Roy agreed with a smile. Just then, Rias and the others arrived. Rias, I'll leave her to you, Roy said. Okay. Rias nodded with a smile. She was quite pleased with Velsaria. Velsaria was already close to high-class devil level. Once she became a devil, it wouldn't be long before she surpassed that level. And Roy had corrected her misguided pursuit of power. She would make an excellent rook. Velsaria's expression fell as she saw Roy handing her over to someone else. Roy noticed her reaction and reassured her. Don't worry, I'll help you become stronger. I promise. Velsaria smiled, then lost consciousness. Her body had been ravaged by the cursed seal. Although Roy had used S to remove the seal on her heart, the accumulated curse had suddenly erupted, destroying her spirit veins. It would take her years to recover as an elementalist. But if she became a devil, her injuries would heal instantly, and the curse would be completely eradicated. Roy, will Wani-sama be alright? Ellis asked, worried. Don't worry. You'll see your beloved sister tomorrow, Roy assured her, patting Ellis's head. Roy, thank you for saving my sister. It was nothing. A few days later, Team Scarlet held a celebration to commemorate their victory in qualification for the Blade Dance. Having defeated Velsaria's team, they were now firmly in first place. Velsaria, after becoming Rias's rook, was now the leader of the second-ranked team. And the third-ranked team was Ultimate Flash, led by Lux. These three teams would represent the Empire in the Blade Dance. The ship to the elemental spirit world would depart in a week. The celebration was held at Roy's villa. The spacious dining room was filled with all sorts of delicacies. Cakes, chocolates, fruits, pastries. Velsaria and her 4 teammates were also present. Chapter 119, Claire's Worries and the Journey to Elemental Spirit World. Ellis's 2 close friends, Raka and Raishia, were also invited. The feast began amidst the cheerful chatter and laughter of the girls. Thank you, Roy, Ria said, raising her glass of wine. I've told you many times, you don't have to thank me. What's yours is mine, Roy replied with a playful smile. Sorry, Roy, No need for apologies either. Roy gently placed a finger on her lips, silencing her. Ria gazed at him with love in her eyes. You two are so sly. I want to drink with Roy too. Claire grumbled, stumbling towards them with a glass of wine. Claire, you're not old enough to drink yet, Roy chided, steadying her. Who cares? No one's going to stop me, Claire slurred, her cheeks flushed. Roy patted her head, feeling a pang of sympathy. After her sister, Rubia Elstian, betrayed the fire elemental lord, Claire had been forced to endure the separation from her family and live alone at the academy. She had no friends. It must have been a lonely and difficult time for her. But no matter how strong someone was, they would eventually tire. Now, under the influence of alcohol, Claire's bottled-up emotions overflowed. Roy, why did my sister do that? We could have all been happy together, she mumbled, leaning against him. Claire, you have to believe in your sister. She would never do anything to hurt you, Roy reassured her. Really? Claire looked up at him with blurry eyes. Of course. I swear. Roy met her gaze, his voice sincere. That's great. Claire exclaimed, then snuggled closer to him and fell asleep. Roy smiled, looking at her peaceful sleeping face. She's such a pitiful child, Rias commented with a sigh. Yes, she is, Roy agreed. I'll take her to her room. He carried Claire to her room and tucked her into bed. When he returned to the dining hall, a girl with golden hair and a sweet face approached him. It was Lux, the girl they had defeated in the team battle. She was the leader of the third-ranked team in the academy. The fourth-ranked team was said to be led by a girl who could summon a horde of spirits. Lux's team had struggled to defeat them. Oh, it's Lux, Roy greeted her with a wave. Once again, this is Lux from League of Legends. Roy-sama, I. Lux stammered nervously. There's no need to be so formal. Just call me Roy, he said with a smile. Although it's a bit late, please accept my gift, Roy-sama. Lux took a deep breath and presented him with a small, beautifully wrapped box. What's this? Roy asked, taking the box. It's a spirit festival gift, Lux explained, her face flushed. She then scurried away to join her teammates. Era, Roy has another admirer, Akino teased with a giggle. It seems you can't escape, Rias added playfully. Roy shrugged. What can I say? It's the burden of being too charming. The girls rolled their eyes at his smug response. The next morning, the chirping of birds echoed through the forest surrounding the academy. Roy stretched and sat up in bed. Esteth and Rias were sleeping peacefully beside him. Good morning, he greeted them with a smile. Mum. They mumbled in response but didn't wake up. As Roy was about to get out of bed, he noticed something on top of him. Est, wake up, he whispered. A beautiful girl with silver hair and mesmerizing blue eyes was sleeping on top of him. She rubbed her eyes sleepily, her adorable appearance resembling a snow elf. Her knee-high socks added to her cuteness. Roy, is it morning already? She asked. Yes, it is. Come on, get up. We're leaving today, Roy replied, gently helping her fix her clothes. Today was the day they would depart for the blade dance. Roy didn't have much to pack. He kept everything he needed in his storage magic. He took Est with him and went to Claire's room. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on the door. See coming. Claire opened the door, her eyes heavy with sleep. Roy, wait a moment. I'll be ready soon, she said, rushing to pack her luggage. Roy shrugged and entered the room. Meow. Scarlet, in her cat form, was playing with Claire's clothes like a ball of yarn. Seeing Roy, she transformed into a young girl and leaped into his arms. Roy-sama, you're here, meow. Yes, Scarlet. Here, this is for you. Roy patted her head and gave her a bag of dried fish snacks. Scarlett's eyes lit up at the sight of the treats. After playing with Scarlett for a while, Claire finally finished packing. She yawned as she emerged from her room, her exhaustion evident. Don't overwork yourself. I'm here to help, after all, Roy said with a smile, taking her luggage. I know, but I still have to prepare our strategy, Claire insisted. The participants in the blade dance are all representatives from different countries, the most elite elementalists. We can't win without a plan. I heard that the Flame Princess who won the last blade dance will also be participating. Don't worry, Claire. With me here, everything will be fine, Roy reassured her, patting her head. Okay. Claire blushed and nodded. Roy took her luggage and left the room with her. Rinslet, Ellis, and Fianna were also ready, waiting outside with their luggage. Fianna pouted, seeing Roy and Claire together. Roy, carry my luggage too. Fianna demanded. No problem, Roy agreed readily. He would just store everything in his storage magic anyway. But Claire and Rinslet weren't happy about this. Don't you have your own hands? Why should Roy carry your luggage? Roy should carry mine. Roy will definitely carry mine, right? Fianna retorted, looking at Roy with pleading eyes. She had given Roy her most precious gift, so it was only natural for her to act spoiled. It's just a small favor, Roy said, taking Fianna's luggage with his free hand. Her luggage was quite large, as it contained her prayer tools. Claire and Rinslet glared at Fianna, who smirked triumphantly. Bring Rinslet and Ellis's luggage too, Roy instructed. Eh? The two girls looked at him in confusion. Roy opened a portal with his storage magic and placed Claire and Fianna's luggage inside. What's that? The girls were curious. It's storage magic, Roy explained with a smile. They didn't question him further. After all, Rinslet's Fenrir could also store luggage. Then, please take mine as well, Ellis said, handing him her luggage with a blush. No problem. He stored Ellis's luggage as well. Just as he was about to close the portal. Wait. What about my luggage? Rinslet exclaimed, rushing over with her and Carol's luggage, which she had retrieved from Fenrir. Your chihuahua can carry luggage, can't it? Why did you take it out? Claire complained. You all put your luggage in Roy's care. I can't fall behind, Rinslet retorted, flipping her hair. She's so competitive, Roy thought, amused. My lady, I'm sleepy. Honestly, Carol, you're always sleeping in. Rinslet dragged her sleepy maid along. I'm not like you, my lady. I have low blood pressure. Yawn. Carol yawned. It seemed Rinslet had woken her up early this morning. This girl was still as useless as ever. An hour later, the members of Team Scarlet gathered at the designated meeting point, the Stone Ring. Rias and the others weren't there. They would teleport directly to the venue once Roy arrived. Are all three teams here? Freya Grandel, the instructor in charge of the Stone Ring, approached them. She glanced at the Academy's clock tower. We'll be teleporting you to the elemental spirit world in 10 minutes. Say your goodbyes to your friends. She began drawing a magic circle within the stone ring. Claire, Rinslet, and Fianna, who had been loners before, had finally made friends with Saya and the others. Kene, Shinobu, and the others bid farewell to them. Ellis, on the other hand, had many friends. She was surrounded by her fellow Sylphid Knights. With her serious brown eyes and her blue ponytail swaying in the wind, Ellis seemed determined to participate in the blade dance wearing her knight armor. Perhaps this was her way of representing both the Academy and the Sylphid Knights. Ellis Bucho, we're counting on you. We'll be cheering for you. Yes, I'll definitely win. Compared to Ellis, Valseria was quite lonely. She wasn't often at the Academy, and her arrogant personality hadn't won her many friends. Fortunately, after becoming Rias's rook, she had befriended Aquino and Zenobia. It's time. Everyone, enter the stone ring, Freya announced. She traced her finger across one of the stone pillars, and the ground glowed with a blue light. The gate connecting the human world to the elemental spirit world opened. The members of the three teams nodded to each other and stepped into the glowing circle. A blinding flash of light engulfed them. They were transported to the elemental spirit world. Lush green trees and a vast lake greeted them. The lake's surface was as smooth as a mirror, a sight unique to this world. Faintly glowing orbs floated around the lakeshore, creating a dreamlike atmosphere. We came to this lake during a school field trip before, Claire commented, mesmerized by the scenery. Where's the ship? Rinslet asked, scanning the lake but finding no sign of any vessel. Look up there, Roy said, pointing towards the sky. The girls looked up and saw a massive ship floating in the air, its shadow cast upon the lake. Is that the Befall-class airship of the Divine Ritual Institute? Ellis murmured, her eyes wide with awe. It was the latest model of airship, named after the Wind Elemental Lord. The girls had only heard rumors about it. This was their first time seeing it in person. The airship had a streamlined hull like a whale. It was powered by spirit engines from the Ballister Kingdom. And its exterior seemed to be constructed from divine wood over 6,000 years old. This was the ship that would carry the elementalists to the blade dance. Roy, we have to win, Claire declared, clutching his hand tightly. Roy smiled reassuringly. Claire's wish was to learn the truth about her sister, Rubia. And Rubia would undoubtedly participate in this blade dance. Ellis, Fianna, and Rinslet also had their own dreams and aspirations. Everyone gathered here had their own reasons for participating in the blade dance. The airship slowly descended, landing on the lake with a gentle splash. They boarded the ship. Meanwhile, at Arishiya Spirit Academy, Greyworth spoke to the wall in her office. Has that Mausama departed? After a moment of silence, a figure materialized from the wall. Chapter 120. Greyworth thoughts and the attack of the destroyer spirit. Yes, they've departed, Freya Grandel confirmed, stepping out from the wall and approaching Greyworth's desk. I don't understand. Is that Demon King really that powerful? All he's done at the academy is chase girls, she commented, unable to hide her skepticism. You wouldn't understand unless you experienced it yourself, Greyworth replied calmly. Even the elemental lords bow before him. Freya fell silent. She knew the power of the elemental lords. They ruled this world. You said the Demon King has been busy with girls lately? Well, it's not surprising. He has so many girls around him, and they're all quite strong. Greyworth sighed. Even she, the strongest elementalist on the continent, felt weak compared to the girls in Roy's entourage. As expected of a Mao, she thought. Freya-sensei, you're young and beautiful. Perhaps you should try your luck. You might be able to win his favor, Greyworth suggested with a playful grin. Freya blushed at her teasing but quickly retorted, Headmaster, you're a beauty yourself. And the strongest elementalist on the continent. Why don't you try? Perhaps that way, you won't have to worry about your cursed seal anymore. Greyworth paused, considering the possibility. With Roy's mysterious powers, removing her cursed seal shouldn't be a problem for him. But she chuckled and dismissed the idea. I'm too old for that. I can't compete with you young girls. Headmaster, you won't know unless you try. Even I'm envious of your beauty, Freya insisted. Freya was right. Although Greyworth was quite old, she wouldn't age due to the wish she had made to the elemental lords. And only she knew that although the phoenix tears had healed her injuries, the cursed seal on her heart remained. It would eventually consume her. Perhaps I should give it a try, Greyworth mused. Astral Zero, Elemental Spirit World. The airship glided through the ether-filled clouds, heading towards its destination. Their destination was the floating island, a sanctuary within the elemental spirit world. This was where the blade dance would be held. Normally, only the princess shrine maidens from the Divine Ritual Institute were allowed to enter this sacred ground. But during the blade dance, it was open to the public. This airship is amazing!" Claire exclaimed, looking down at the vast sea of clouds with a hint of dizziness. It was her first time on an airship. The other noble ladies, however, seemed accustomed to such luxury. They unpacked their luggage and gathered in their assigned lounge, relaxing on the plush sofas. The walls were adorned with polished marble tiles and decorated with beautiful tapestries. The room was well stocked with high-quality amenities. "It's not shaking at all," Ellis commented in surprise. As a noble from a remote region, she rarely had the opportunity to ride airships. "This is the latest model. If everything goes smoothly, we should arrive around noon," Claire replied, sprawled on the sofa. Her skirt had ridden up, but she didn't seem to notice. "By the way, there will be an opening ceremony at the castle tonight. Did you bring any dresses?" Fianna asked. "Of course. I wouldn't miss such an important event," Rinslet declared, twirling her golden hair. Fianna had also brought a dress. "But I didn't bring one." "I don't usually wear dresses," Ellis admitted with a hint of regret. "Don't worry, I have plenty of Rias's dresses. You can borrow one if you'd like," Roy offered with a smile. "Thank you," Ellis replied gratefully. "Rinslet, what are you doing?" Fianna asked, watching as Rinslet set up a tea set on the table. "I'm preparing tea. Would you like to join me for afternoon tea?" Rinslet asked with a graceful smile. "Yes, please." "I've heard that the tea from the Lorenfrost region is exquisite," Fianna replied eagerly. "Indeed. We should relax a bit before the blade dance," Ellis agreed. It seemed that enjoying afternoon tea was a ritual for noble ladies, regardless of the time or place. Rinslet poured the tea with elegant movements. The aroma of citrus filled the room. It was different from the tea Aquino usually made, but both were delicious in their own way. "Thank you. It smells wonderful," Claire said with a straightforward compliment. "This is a special citrus tea from the Lorenfrost region," Rinslet explained proudly. "It's delicious, my lady," Carol chimed in with a smile. "But shouldn't making tea be the maid's job?" Claire couldn't resist teasing. "What are you saying? If my precious Carol burned herself, could you afford to replace her?" Rinslet retorted. Carol was considered property of the Lorenfrost family. In other words, she was Rinslet's personal belonging, which was why she was allowed to accompany them to the sanctuary. But Rinslet didn't seem happy about Carol being treated as an object. "Roy, how many sugars would you like?" Rinslet asked, looking at him curiously. "Just one, please," Roy replied. Her way of making tea is different from Aquino's, he thought. "Claire, you take two, right?" Rinslet then asked Claire. "Hey, how do you remember my preferences?" Claire asked, surprised. I didn't remember. I just happened to guess." Rinslet retorted, blushing. "My lady and Claire Sama were very close when they were young. They played together all the time," Carol whispered to Roy. "Oh? Is that so?" Roy chuckled. "Yes, Claire Sama used to be very attached to my lady." "Wait a minute. What are you talking about?" Claire exclaimed, her face flushed. But we're rivals." Rinslet protested, turning away. "I'll take my tea without sugar, please." As expected of a princess. "You know how to appreciate tea properly," Rinslet said with a pleased nod. "Ahem." Ellis cleared her throat. "I'll take my tea with lots of sugar and milk." Her voice was filled with embarrassment. Okay, milk tea it is. And, also." Ellis hesitated. Rinslet looked at her questioningly. "If possible, could you add some whipped cream and honey? And some marshmallows on top?" Ellis blurted out. "What kind of request is that?" Rinslet's eye twitched. "You're desecrating the tea." But that's how I always drink it. To endure the harsh swordsmanship training, I need to consume a lot of sugar," Ellis explained, blushing. Honestly, the Farangard family, known for their warriors. The Knight Captain is surprisingly childish. She doesn't even know how to appreciate the delicate flavor of tea. Shut up. Sweet things are better. Ellis retorted, tears welling up in her eyes as Claire looked at her with pity. Roy sighed, watching their bickering. Rinslet could argue with anyone. Despite her harsh words, she still prepared the tea according to Ellis's request. I can't believe you actually added honey. Claire stared at Ellis's milk tea in disbelief. I like it this way. If you have so many complaints, try it. Ellis retorted, pushing her cup towards Claire. Such a sweet drink can't possibly be good, eh? Claire took a sip and her eyes widened slightly. How is it? It's not bad. It has a gentle flavor. See? But it ruins the taste of the fine tea. It's just a child's drink. Well, that's true. Although they often bickered, Claire and Ellis were actually good friends. Roy enjoyed watching their playful banter. Your fire cat spirit is so cute, Ellis suddenly said, reaching out to pet Scarlet, who was curled up on the sofa. She played with Scarlet's fluffy tail and poked her paws. Hey! Scarlet is my contracted spirit. Don't touch her. Claire protested, feeling like her beloved pet was being stolen. Just a little bit. It's okay, right? Ellis pleaded, hugging Scarlet tightly. It seemed the usually stern Knight Captain had a weakness for cute things. Roy chuckled inwardly. He remembered seeing stuffed animals in Ellis's room. Meow. Scarlet squirmed uncomfortably, seeking help from Claire. I told you to let her go. Don't you have your own contracted spirit? Claire demanded. But Simorg isn't very cute. Ellis mumbled. If her contracted spirit heard that, it would probably run away from home. Ellis. Just a little longer, please. Let me play with her for a bit longer, Ellis pleaded, refusing to let go of Scarlet. Meow. Meow. Scarlet escaped from Ellis's grasp and leaped into Roy's arms. Mum. Ellis pouted, disappointed. Roy petted Scarlet, amused by the scene. By the way, the representatives from other countries are also on this airship, right? He suddenly asked. The participants in the blade dance were all elite elementalists from various academies. If he could capture them all and make them his servants. The thought excited him. Yes, we picked up several teams along the way, Claire replied. Roy set down his teacup. Is the strongest blade dancer, the Crimson Princess, also on this ship? He asked casually. The atmosphere in the room instantly tensed. There was an underlying pressure in Roy's voice. Unlike in the original story, the winner of the blade dance 3 years ago was a girl known as the Crimson Princess. However, no one knew her true appearance. They only knew she had crimson hair. This was because she had worn a red mask during the tournament. Roy suspected that this Crimson Princess was actually Claire's sister, Rubia Elstian. After all, in the original story, Rubia Elstian was the leader of the Inferno, known as the Crimson Lord. No, she's not on this ship, Claire replied calmly. She's representing Alpha's theocracy, so even if she's taking an airship, it would be a different one. I see. Roy nodded. He understood the general plot but wasn't familiar with all the details. After chatting with the girls for a while, Roy stood up. You guys rest for a bit. I'm going to take a walk outside. He left the lounge. Claire, Ellis, Rinslet, and Fianna exchanged glances. We should follow Roy. It's too dangerous out there, Rinslet suggested. They all understood what she meant by dangerous. I agree. I'm not tired anyway, Claire said. Me too, Fianna added. She had wanted to follow him earlier. Is that really okay? Ellis hesitated. Then you can stay here and rest, Claire replied nonchalantly. The 3 girls were about to leave when Ellis stopped them. Wait, I'll come too. Meanwhile, at an altitude of 4,000 meters. A small fighter airship appeared beneath the airship carrying the blade dance participants. It had been lurking in the forest, waiting for its prey. The metal hatch opened, and a young girl with dark gray pigtails emerged. "I found you, male elementalist," she said with a sly smile, then began chanting an incantation. The ring on her middle finger glowed red. "All right, go wild. Destroyer spirit, gaze of the dead." A massive black monster emerged from a rift in space. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn in Highschool DxD is a Lucifuge. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.